Mrs. Norris, tied up, and they saw the words written on the wall, and they got caught, etc., etc. Ron says, we should leave, Harry. Shouldn't we try to help? Well, they go back later, and they see spiders scuttling away. Ron kind of backs up, and Hermione laughs at him. Ron says, I don't mind them dead. I just don't like the way they move. Hermione giggles. It's not funny. If you must know, when I was 3, Fred turned my teddy bear into a great big filthy spider because I broke his toy broomstick. You wouldn't like them either if you'd been holding your bear and suddenly it had too many legs and he breaks off and doesn't say anything else. Okay? What's the problem with that? How old is Fred when Ron's 3? 5. What kind of magic is that? Turning a stuffed teddy bear into a living, breathing, wriggling spider. It's transfiguration. What kind of transfiguration? That's pretty advanced for a 5-year-old. Does Fred have a wand?
Well, it might not have been intentional. Like when Harry was like under distress, like he did magic without a wand when he was younger, not even
like made the glass disappear.
Okay, but what kind of magic did Harry do? Like when he's being chased by Dudley and his gang. He suddenly finds himself up on the roof of the gymnasium. Okay? It's attributed to the wind. So the implication is there is, when that happens, wind happening. Okay. How likely is it the wind's going to pick up 80, 90, however he weighs, and put him up on the top of a 5-story building? Not likely. The glass. Okay? He removes the glass. Okay? Does he try to remove the glass? No, he doesn't. It's all accidental. Ron implies what here? Yeah. Fred saw Ron, and he decides to be Fred, to play a practical joke on him. That is, this is very focused, direct magic, which you can't do, what? Without a wand. I mean, we're told, Dumbledore will say, you need the wand for what purpose? It focuses, it channels, okay, the magic. The magic comes from where? Does it come from the wand? No. Expecto Patronum charm, next book. It comes from here. Expecto literally means out of my chest. Okay? And we'll talk about the Patronus part later. This is just an example, I think, could be wrong, but I don't think so, of where Rowling doesn't follow the laws of the universe she's created that get described after this. That is, she's created this scene. And then later on she writes some stuff and she talks about how you have to have a wand, and the wand, channels and focuses your power. And it's almost like she's completely forgotten this passage. Because she doesn't give us any caveats. She doesn't give us any, but there are exceptions to the rule kind of a thing. Okay? So, now go on to the next chapter, the Rogue Bludger. So, Harry has his Quidditch match, right? And he's flying, and the Bludger's just going after him. Okay? Bludger knocks him off. Harry falls. Lockhart comes to help him. Obviously he doesn't. And loses all the bones in his right arm. And he wakes up in the middle of the night, pages 176 and 77, and Dobby's sitting there on his chest. Harry's like, what are you doing here? How'd you know I missed the train? And the light bulb goes off. It was you. Dobby says yes. And Harry asks Dobby, how come you wear that thing? That what looks like a pillowcase with a hole, 2 holes, one for the head, 2 for his arms, in it, that, he blows his nose on and everything. Why do you wear that thing? Page 177. Dobby says, 'tis a mark of the house elf's enslavement, sir. Dobby can only be freed if his masters present him with clothes. Family's careful not to pass Dobby even a sock. Just file that away. For then he would be free to leave their house forever. Dobby tells Harry he can't go home, mentions the bludger, etc., etc. And then Harry asks, I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you wanted me sent home in pieces. Dobby, If Harry Potter only knew, if he knew what he means to us, to the lowly, the enslaved, we dregs of the magical world. Okay? Notice Dobby's not talking about other wizards or witches. Who's he talking about? Who are the we dregs of the magical world? Is that only house elves?
The servants of the wizards.
Okay, servants of the wizards. Who else is it? What other kinds of beings is it? House elves, first of all. Goblins. Werewolves. Good one. Giants. Centaurs. Okay. Things that inhabit the magical world, but they're not human. In other words, everything not human in the magical world. So all the stuff Hagrid brings to class once he becomes a teacher, you know, flobberworms and great blast-ended scroots and etc. Okay? Dobby goes on. So he's going to describe what life was like for the dregs of the magical world. Dobby remembers how it was when he who must not be named was at the height of his powers, sir. We house elves were treated like vermin, sir. Well, he says, of course, I still am, but, you know, that's beside the point. But mostly, sir, life has improved for my kind, since you triumphed over he who must not be named. Harry Potter survived, the Dark Lord's power was broken, and it was and he uses an image, a new dawn. Okay? New dawn. What's that image literally of? Sunrise. What does the sunrise literally do? It's light, what? Shining in the darkness. It's light dispelling the darkness. And Harry Potter, he says, shone like a beacon of hope for those of us who thought the dark days would never end. Now, I don't know 100% that J.K. Rowling has this in her mind. But I think it's back there somewhere. The beginning of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word blah, 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 blah. And the Word what? Was a light shining in the darkness. Okay? And the darkness knew it not. And then John goes on and he says, there was a man. And he talks about whom? Not himself. Talks about John the Baptist, who was the preparer, etc. Dobby uses the same kind of language. Because what is, in the Christian tradition, what does Christ come to do? Who does he come for? The dregs. He tells us that. Very first statement, what does he do? He stands up in the synagogue, he opens the Hebrew Bible, passage of Isaiah, and what does it say? Declare to the poor, the lame, the deaf, the blind. Right? And he says these things, the things that are referred to in Isaiah 60, are going to happen. And he says, now is this passage fulfilled in your hearing? And they're like, did he just say what I think he said? Because what has he said? Like a beacon of hope shining in the darkness, the Messiah has come. Okay? Harry Potter, later book, is going to be referred to, book 7, as what? For those of you who have read it. The chosen one. What is the chosen one in English translation of? The Messiah. The anointed one. Okay? Now, I'm not grasping at straws there, and I'm not reading. That's because the books form a whole. They look forward and they look backward. Okay? So, what does Dobby tell Harry? You can't stay here. You got to go home. Harry's like, I can't go home because what is number 4 Privet Drive? It's not home. This is Harry's home. This is where he belongs. Okay? So Dobby keeps going on, you know, because Harry says, one of my best friends is a Muggle-born, page 179. Dobby, Harry Potter risks his own life for his friends. Risks his own life. We saw that in book 1, right? He sacrifices himself. So noble, so valiant, but he must save himself. He must. And they hear a noise. Dobby disappears. Dumbledore comes in with McGonagall. And Harry sees Colin Creevey, now frozen. Okay? Personally, I'm glad. Wish he never woke up. But I just can't stand the character of Colin Creevey. Anyways, McGonagall says when they open his camera and steam comes out, the film's been melted. McGonagall, what does this mean, Albus? It means, says Dumbledore, the Chamber of Secrets is indeed open again. Okay, he makes two statements there. One, there is a Chamber of Secrets. Two, makes three statements. Two, it has been opened before. Three, it's now been opened again. He knows what's doing this. Notice. Does he put a warning sign up on the hallway, beware of basilisk? No, he doesn't tell anybody. Okay? Madame Pomfrey claps her hand to her mouth. Why? Has she ever heard of the Chamber of Secrets before? We don't know. Other than, the myth and the blood on the wall saying it's been opened. McGonagall, but Albus, surely who? He says the question is not who, the question is how. Okay? Who, how? Same letters, right? Rearrange them as we see later on in the novel. Same letters get rearranged to change one thing to something else. Okay? So, the dueling club, I'm going to skip. Who comes up with the idea of the dueling club? That's why I skip it. Because Lockhart comes up with it, and pretty much everything Lockhart does is pointless. Everything. Does Lockhart serve any larger purpose within the course of the novels? No. Yes.
Why does he set up so many opportunities for himself to be called out on not knowing anything? Like he sets
It's a
himself
really
up.
good question. Okay, let me throw that back. Why do you think he does? Any idea?
Maybe because he wants to prove that he may know what to do. in
He's
a
like,
situation.
maybe I got this.
Yeah, maybe I can do this one.
Prove it.
Possibly. What else?
I just don't understand why Lockhart was hired at all. Like any incompetent teacher, like Professor Trelawney, Dumbledore later explains,
Why
I
he
hired
keeps?
her to
Yep.
protect her.
Yep.
She's here because of this prophecy that she made, right before you were born. But I don't There's no explanation for Lockhart being.
Hagrid gives us one.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't
Hagrid says he was the only man for the job. That is, it's like the Daily Prophet's running heads. Defense against the dark arts teacher. Inquire, Albus Dumbledore, Hogwarts, whatever the rest of the dress is. And the implication is he gets one job applicant. Does Dumbledore know who Lockhart is? Does he know he's a fraud? Yeah, I think it's pretty clear he knows he's a fraud. Okay? But remember, an awful lot of the time in the book, where is Dumbledore? Gone. Okay? Because pretty shortly, he's going to get kicked out. Okay? So, we see the dueling club. We see Harry speak in parcel tongue to the snake. And we'll just skip the rest. Ron says, oh, that's what you were doing, because he said, I was telling the snake, leave him alone. He goes, all we heard was, page 202. Okay. Now, Harry is overheard in the library, Ernie Macmillan, Justin Finch Fletchley, and others talking. And it's seemingly he leaves the library, they leave the library, he hears the voice, and what does he see? Page 202. He sees shut up. He sees Justin Finch Fletchley lying on the floor, rigid and cold, and what else? Would you stop? How do you paralyze a ghost? How do you immobilize a ghost? Okay. And Harry thinks what? Bottom of 202. He could run. What would Ron do? He'd already be down the hallway. Okay? And no one would ever know he had been there. But he couldn't just leave them lying here. He had to get help. He can't help himself from helping people. Would anyone believe? And what happens? Others come in. Ernie Macmillan says caught in the act. McGonagall tells him to be quiet. Peeves, starts chanting. And Harry is taken up to Dumbledore's office. Gets into Dumbledore's office. Dumbledore's not there. What does he see? He goes in, page 206, and let's see here. He goes in and he sees the sorting hat. He puts it on. Bee in your bonnet, Potter? You were wondering whether I put you in the right house. I said you were difficult. You would have done well in Slytherin. Harry slams it down. No, you're wrong. Okay? And then he turns and he sees Dumbledore's bird, which looks kind of like, let's think of this as an overgrown turkey with all its feathers gone. It's a naked bird, and in it, poof, bursts into flame. He yells, backs up. Dumbledore comes in. He goes, what? He's thinking, I'm in for it, man. I torched the headmaster's bird, He's done other things before with magic. He was really angry as a result of the sorting hat. Maybe he's thinking he actually did this. Dumbledore. It's about time. Harry's like, what? He's a phoenix, Harry. Fawkes is a phoenix. Phoenixes burst into flame when it's time for them to die and are reborn from the ashes. Watch. And Harry goes and he looks and he sees this pile of ash. And out of a little bit of ash comes this little tiny hatchling. Dumbledore. Shame you had to see him on a burning day. Okay, Fawkes, burning day. Rowling is playing on British history. Guy Fawkes Day, November 5th. Remember the 5th of November is a phrase. Why? Because Guy Fawkes and his merry band of Catholics on November 5th, 1607, tried to blow up Houses of Parliament and were caught. Okay? And so, every November 5th, you have Bonfire Night, where they burn a guy, sometimes pronounced Guy, G-U-I, which is an effigy of Guy Fawkes, essentially. I mean, they still do this. 400 years later, the English have long memories, okay? Don't blow up Parliament, dirty Catholics, kind of a thing. So, what does Dumbledore do? He then teaches him about phoenixes. He says, fascinating creatures, phoenixes. They can carry immensely heavy loads. Tears have healing powers, and they make highly faithful pets. Okay? So, they talk a little bit, and Dumbledore essentially has one question for Harry. Page 209 at the very top. Is there anything you'd like to tell me? Anything at all. Come on. Unburden yourself, Harry. It's anything. Just whatever. And Harry thinks about what Ron said. Hearing voices, even in the magic world, it's still not a good thing, son of Sam and, mass murderer. No, nothing at all, sir. There isn't anything. Okay. Now, when Dumbledore asks that, does he ask that because Dumbledore's a blank slate when it comes to Harry? No. How do we know that? Well, because some of us have read the rest of the books. And what do we come to learn about Dumbledore? What is he accomplished at? Legilimency. Or the ability to, Harry's words, Snape doesn't like these words, read minds. So when he's saying, Harry, is there anything you want to tell me? Secretly, he's thinking, tell me, Harry, tell me about the voice you're hearing. Tell me about let me rip, tear, suck the blood, Come on, open up. Be honest for once, And Harry's like, nothing, sir. So Harry lies to him. Goes back to his room. Okay. They come up with the idea, Hermione does, of the Polyjuice Potion. Okay. What does the Polyjuice Potion do? Turns you into somebody else, right? What does their Polyjuice Potion of Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle look like? It's gross. Snot. It looks like snot, okay? But they take it. Hermione's, she has a little problem with hers because she doesn't only get, I can't remember the person's name, Pansy Parkinson. She also gets a little bit of cat hair. I don't remember who it is. She's named, I'm just skipping over. It's a Slytherin girl who's kind of cat-like. Yeah, Millicent Bulstrode. That's who it is. And she gets the, hairy look of a cat. So, Harry and Ron are now Crabbe and Goyle. And they go down, they find the Slytherin common room. And what information do they get from Malfoy? What do they want to get from Malfoy?
He's the heir of Slytherin. Yeah,
I mean, they want a confession. Okay? But they can't. Because Malfoy's not him. Okay? They go into Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. I'm skipping a bunch. We get to chapter The Very Secret Diary. Okay? Moaning Myrtle complains about the book. Harry takes it, and they examine it. And Hermione says, bottom of 232, as they're talking about it, Ron says, what did Tom Riddle, or they ask Ron, what did Tom Riddle get his award for? Because Ron sees the name, property of Tom Riddle, and he says, right, I recognize that name. I polished, silver, and I saw he got an award. Well, what kind of award? Ron, he got about 30 owls, saved a teacher, etc., etc. And he starts thinking, see, Malfoy said the Chamber of Secret was last opened 50 years ago. Ron, yeah. Hermione, and this diary is 50 years old. So, Ron's not good at following, connecting the dots. Hermione, we know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. What if Riddle got a special award for catching the heir of Slytherin? Ron, brilliant theory, Hermione. Diary's blank. And so, maybe it might be invisible ink. He says, go at it. And she goes at it, and there's nothing. All right? Now, notice, Hermione's right in her theory. What's the problem with her theory?
He is the heir.
Okay, he is the heir. Okay, what else? Let me back up for a minute. What? We know what year this is, right? What year is it? 1992. Okay? Minus 50 takes us to 1942. Okay? Tom Riddle, in 1942, we're going to find out, is a fifth year. This is Tom Riddle. Who's a third year? Rubens Hagrid. So, fifth year, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So he was 15 in 1942, right? So he was born in 1927. Hagrid is how old? Was 13 in 1942. So he was born in 1929. But if he was 13 50 years ago, that means at the beginning of this book, Hagrid is 63. Okay? And Voldemort is 65. Do we know how old Dumbledore is? No, we're not told specifically. Okay? But it's kind of interesting to find out Hagrid's 65. Okay? And Voldemort's not much older. They were, I don't want to say colleagues. They were at school together, so to speak. Okay? So, after, trying some stuff with the diary, the ink spills all over it when, Ginny sends the stupid little singing dwarf thing, the Valentine gram, whatever. Harry goes up to his room and writes, my name is Harry Potter. The ink goes away and then it comes back. Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary? Harry tells him. So, Tom Riddle starts to talk to Harry via words on the diary. And he says, I can show you. Harry, okay. And the diary blows pages. And what happens? Harry sees this little screen. The screen gets larger and larger and larger and larger. And before he knows it, he's falling into the book. Kind of like he wanted to do in the previous novel with the mirror. He wanted to fall in the mirror, but he couldn't. Okay? So he falls in the book, and he sees a bunch of stuff. I'm going to skip much of it. What conclusion does he arrive at the end of that chapter? He goes back up. He tells Ron and Hermione. He tells Ron what?
It was Hagrid.
It was Hagrid. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago. On the basis of what information does Harry say that? On the basis of what Tom Riddle showed him. Okay. What does this show us on Harry's part?
Trusting.
Trusting, that's a charitable way of putting it. What's an uncharitable way of putting it? Naive. Gullible. What else? What's Hermione's relationship with books? She believes them. Harry believes what he, quote unquote, reads.
So Lockhart's character is kind of like foreshadowing of not to believe Tom Riddle. Kind of.
Yeah. How much of Lockhart's book should you believe? None. Is there any truth in Lockhart's books? Yes, there is. What's the truth?
The stories are true, but it's
But who
not
did it?
their truth.
Somebody really did all these things. It's just he took the glory for himself. Okay? So, Harry, Ron, Hermione think the next chapter, Hagrid's always had a thing for monsters. Maybe that's part of the problem. So they keep talking about it. So they decide to go down and talk to Hagrid. Harry's, the diary ends up missing. He hears voices again. Okay, pages 254, 55. He's getting ready to go to Quidditch. Hermione's like, I thought of something. She runs off to the library, and Harry's like, why is she going to the library? Run, because that's where she always goes. So, goes off to the Quidditch match, and it's canceled. Because more students have been taken. So later that evening, Harry and Ron put on the invisibility cloak, and they go down to Hagrid's hut. And while they're there, there's a knock on the door. Okay? They put the invisibility cloak on so they can't be seen, right? Well, Dumbledore shows up with another guy, Cornelius Fudge. We've not met Fudge before. Fudge is sitting there playing with his bowler hat. Bad business, Hagrid. Very bad business. Had to come. 4 attacks on Muggleborns. Things have gone far enough. Ministry's got to act. Hagrid, I never, Dumbledore. Dumbledore says, Hagrid has my complete trust, etc., etc. Fudge is like, yeah, but I got to be seen doing something, okay? If it wasn't Hagrid, he'll be back. No more said. Hagrid, back from where? Where's he going? Is he going to the Ministry of Magic to be put in a cell? No. He's going to Azkaban. Put Azkaban in our world, real world terms. If we have anything that's even close. I mentioned Alcatraz because it kind of sounds like it. But it's not like that, right? It'd be more like Auschwitz. I mean, Dementors are more like Nazi SS guards than they are the guys who used to prowl the halls at Alcatraz. Okay? On what charge? Or, excuse me, on what judgment? Does he get a trial? No. Is he actually charged with anything? No. It's just haul him off. Okay? So, Lucius Malfoy shows up and says what? Bottom of 262. Dreadful thing, Dumbledore. Governors feel it's time for you to step aside. Order of suspension, 12 signatures, etc., etc. Okay? Fudge doesn't like this idea. What does Dumbledore say? He says, you will find, page 263, speaking very slowly and clearly so that none of them could miss a word, you will find that I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. You will also find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. For a second, Harry was almost sure Dumbledore's eyes flickered toward the corner where he and Ron stood hidden. Now, is that telling us Dumbledore does see them underneath the invisibility cloak? Or is it just Harry thinks Dumbledore sees them? Malfoy, that's pretty high-minded of you. And then Hagrid says, and if anybody wants to know anything, follow the spiders. That'll lead them right. Okay, follow spiders. So, they leave, and Harry and Ron do what? Follow the spiders. The spiders lead him to Aragog. What does Aragog tell them?
That he's not the monster from the Chamber of Secrets.
I'm not the monster of the Chamber of Secrets. Hagrid had what? He had me up at the castle. Okay, and he left the castle. Why? Because of the monster of the Chamber of Secrets. Okay. He also says what? A girl died 50 years ago. Okay. And then Hagrid says, to his children, dinner time. We're going to skip the flying forward Anglia rescuing them. Ginny wants to say something to Ron. Percy comes in and butts in. And they find out, just before they find out, Ginny's been taken. Harry and Ron run up to the hospital room to get McGonagall's permission. And they find out Hermione has something gripped in her hand. And they pull it out. And it's a page of a library book. Hermione defacing a library book. And they read about the basilisk. And Harry puts it all together. Basilisk, pipes. Okay. Bathroom, it's been traveling. Moaning Myrtle is the dead one. Okay. They read about the rooster, then now they know why there's blood, etc., etc. So, they then hear McGonagall say, because all the students are told to go to their main dormitories, someone else has been taken, and McGonagall tells them, or they overhear McGonagall say, Ginny Lockhart has been taken, Ginny Weasley has been taken into the Chamber of Secrets. Lockhart shows up, they say, now's your chance, prove yourself. Why? Do they really think he's going to do something?
No, get him out of the way.
Get him out of the way. Harry and Ron do think he's going to do something. How stupid can they be? They follow him, and what do they see him doing? Packing up. I mean, he got his pictures off the wall, because those are important,
Yeah.
Pictures off the wall. And so they get him, they go down. What does Lockhart attempt to do? Page 303. Adventure ends here, boys. I shall take a bit of this skin back up to the school, because they find some basilisk sloughed off skin. Tell them I was too late to save the girl. You two tragically lost your minds at the sight of her mangled body. Say goodbye to your memories. He has Ron's wand, and he does Obliviati, and it backfires, and he erases his memories. Also causes a cave-in, so you have Ron and Lockhart and Harry to go off to the chamber. Okay? He goes off to the chamber, and he speaks Slytherin. He gets through. He sees Ginny. He runs to her. And then he sees Tom Riddle, because Tom Riddle explains, that's who I am. Harry says, did you see? And Tom Riddle has Harry's wand, twirling it. Thanks, Harry says. And he doesn't give it back. So they keep talking. Why? Well, why does a villain in every, thing talk for too long? It's plot device, because you don't get the ending that you want. Okay? And Harry gradually comes to discover Tom Riddle is, because he writes, Tom Marvolo Riddle, and he waves his wand, and it becomes, I am Lord Voldemort. All right. And Tom Riddle talks about, his plans and talks about Dumbledore was the one who saw through me, who thought Hagrid was innocent. And Harry says, I bet Dumbledore saw right through you. Well, he kept annoyingly close, he says. He says, and now, I would be able to lead another in my footsteps, finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work. Harry, yeah, but you haven't finished it. No one's died this time. He goes, I'm not concerned about that now. I've got you. Okay? They keep talking. And Voldemort's like, how did you escape? I mean, Harry, how do you care I escaped? And that's when he does the I am Lord Voldemort. And Voldemort says, 314, Tom Riddle says, no, Harry, I fashioned myself a new name, a name I knew wizards everywhere would one day fear to speak when I'd become the greatest sorcerer in the world. Harry, you're not. Not what? Not the greatest sorcerer in the world. And I wish she'd thrown in a little bit more of that kind of Britishism. Not the greatest sorcerer in the world, old boy. You're just, you're second. Second is always what? Not first. Always sub. Okay? Even when you were strong, you didn't dare try and take over at Hogwarts. Dumbledore saw through you when you were at school. He still framed you now, wherever you're hiding these days. Makes Tom Riddle lose his composure a little bit. Okay? But Harry hears a sound, like a song. Looks around, Tom Riddle looks around, in flies Fawkes. Okay? Fawkes comes, flies right at Harry, and drops something at Harry's feet. And they look at it, and Tom Riddle says, that's a phoenix, Harry Fawkes. And that's the old school sorting hat. He goes, ooh, I'm scared. This is what Dumbledore sends his defender. This is the first time Harry's actually called a defender. Might as well be Patronus. A songbird and an old hat. You feel brave, Harry? In other words, is this going to enable you to kill me? What are you going to do? Beat me with it? Suffocate me with it? So, to business, Harry. And he says, how did you survive? Tell me. How are you with little skill? Blah, 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 blah. Harry tells him, my mother died to save me. Notice what Tom Riddle, 16-year-old Tom Riddle says. Page 317. Your mother died to save you. That's a powerful counter charm. I can see now. Nothing special about you. Okay? He can see that now, his 16-year-old former self. Okay? Said he was born in 29. When did Harry's parents die? 1981. Almost 60 years later. 52 years later. Okay? So Tom Riddle was 52 then. The 16-year-old self can see something that the 52-year-old couldn't see? Or was he just, in the heat of the moment, he's thinking, I'm going to get rid of the little bastard, I don't know. He says, you got to notice the likeness between us, Harry. Half-bloods, orphans. Well, there's a little difference there. Why was Tom Riddle an orphan? No, he didn't kill his mom. She died shortly after childbirth. Okay? He did kill his dad and grandparents. Okay? Orphans, parcel mouths. We even look a little bit alike, Harry. So he calls forth the basilisk. And what does Harry do? He calls forth the opposite of the basilisk, right? Nope. Fawkes goes after the basilisk, blinds it, and Harry says, help me, help me. No Obi-Wan Kenobi, just help me. Someone, anyone. The basilisk whisks its tail and throws the sorting hat into Harry's face. He takes it and puts it on. Yes. Help me. Help me, sorting hat. Speak to me words of wisdom, Now No answering voice. Instead, the hat contracts. It does what? Squeezes something out. Kind of a gross image when you think about it. And the thing pops Harry on the head, nearly knocks him out, and it's a sword. Gleaming silver sword with rubies the size of eggs in the handle. All right. So, Harry kills the basilisk, but gets bit in the process. Slumps it down against the wall, slumps against the ground, a little bit of blood oozing out, and he thinks he's dying. Tom Riddle says, I'm going to watch you die. This will be fun. He says, your mother bought you 12 years of borrowed time, Harry, page 321. But Lord Voldemort got you in the end, as you knew he must. Now, 12 years of borrowed time, I think this is the amount. I could be wrong. It might be 15. The Old Testament, in the Old Testament, one of the books of the Kings or Chronicles, one of the kings, Hezekiah, is on his deathbed and he prays to God, and God goes, I'll give you more time. And he gives him, I think it's 12 years. Okay? So, Harry's thinking, was this dying? Instead of going blank, the chamber seemed to be coming back into focus. He gave his head a little shake. There was Fawkes, resting his head on Harry's arm. Pearly patch of tears shining all around the wound. But there was no wound. Riddle says, get away, bird. And Harry remembers Fawkes, healing tears. Okay? And Fawkes drops the diary into Harry's arms. Okay? Just before, Tom Riddle's getting ready to Avada Kedavra him. And Harry takes the basilisk fang that is now on the floor because he pulled it out of his arm, and he stabs the book. Why? What else can he do? I mean, it's worth a shot. Okay? And the book's like, the wicked old witch and the Wizard of Oz, I'm out there, you wretched child, and disappears. Okay? So, Harry and Ron get Ginny and Lockhart back upstairs. They see the Weasleys are upset. Dumbledore perceives what's about to happen. He says, what I want to know is how Tom Riddle, did this to Ginny. Not that Ginny opened herself. He's making Ginny so that she's safe with her parents. And then everybody clears the room but Harry and Dumbledore. And we get Harry's debriefing. He gets a debriefing with Dumbledore in the first 5 books. Okay? Kind of gets the debriefing in the 6th book, but it happens before the end. So Dumbledore says, 332, thanks, Harry. You must have shown me real loyalty down in the chamber. Nothing but that could have called Fawkes to you. And you met Tom Riddle. I bet he was interested in you. So they talk, and Harry says, he said we were alike. Well, did he now? And tell me, Harry, how did that make you feel? Tell me, what do you really think about that? He goes all counselory on him. Harry, I don't think I'm like him. I'm a Gryffindor. He's kind of thinking, I think, what I should have told Dumbledore when he asked me, is there anything you want to tell me, Harry? Sorting Hat told me I'd have done well in Slytherin. Everyone thought I was Slytherin's heir for a while, because I can speak Parseltongue. Notice, Dumbledore kind of interrupts him. The ... and then Dumbledore speaks. It's like Harry pauses because he's gathering his thoughts and he's going to continue. What do you think he's going to say after everyone thought I was Slytherin's heir for a while? Pause. Because I can speak Parseltongue. Pause. How would Harry have finished that? Therefore, I must be Slytherin's heir. I think that's where Harry's going. Dumbledore interrupts. You can speak Parseltongue, Harry, because Voldemort, the last remaining ancestor of Salazar Slytherin, notice, by the way, wrong word. He's not an ancestor of Salazar Slytherin. Ancestors come before. He is a descendant of Salazar Slytherin. Okay? He comes after. Because Voldemort can speak Parseltongue. Unless I'm much mistaken, he, Voldemort, transferred some of his own powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Not something he intended to do. You know, Harry does something here. I think this is the first time we really see Harry do this. He's going to do this in later books. And it's really important because it's an aspect of Harry's character, and he's always right when he does this. Okay? He heard Dumbledore say, he transferred some of his own powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Now, that's pretty clear, right? Common, ordinary English. It's not anything subtext going on. Harry, Voldemort put a bit of himself in me. Notice how he interprets that. Transferred some of his powers to, there's a chunk of Voldemort in me. Okay? Which of the two ultimately is more accurate? Harry's. It's Harry's that is more accurate. It's like Dumbledore knows, and he wants to back away a little bit, make it a little bit less clear and ambiguous, and Harry gets right to the heart of the matter. Okay? It certainly seems so. Notice Dumbledore validates Harry's interpretation. Way to go, Harry. Yeah, that's pretty good interpretation there. You should write a book. So I should be in Slytherin. Why does Harry make that judgment? How does he reach that conclusion? Well, it's Slytherin. He put a bit of Slytherin in me. The Sorting Hat saw Slytherin, Slytherin, Slytherin. The Sorting Hat can see Slytherin's power in me. It and Dumbledore interrupts. He doesn't give Harry a chance. It put you in Gryffindor. All right? Listen, Harry, in other words, clearing the wax out of your ears. If you don't hear anything else, Harry, listen to this. You do have some qualities of Salazar Slytherin, or that Slytherin prized in his hand-picked students. You've got his gift, Parseltongue. Okay? Resourcefulness, right? Is Harry good on exams? Not necessarily. What's he good at? Practical exams. Heat of the moment kind of things. He never swings and misses. He's a good, pinch hitter, so to speak. What else? Certain disregard for rules. Notice Dumbledore doesn't say, and I'm, hitting you with some demerits. I'm taking points. No. Yet the Sorting Hat placed you in Gryffindor. Why? Come on, Harry. Think. Why? Because I asked not to go in Slytherin? Exactly, Harry. And then notice, Dumbledore takes that and he unpacks it. He takes Harry's, because I chose not to go in Slytherin, and he interprets it. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Right? What are Harry's abilities? As great as Hermione's? When it comes to magic? No. What did Hagrid say? There's not a spell that's been invented that our Hermione can't do. Okay? It's our choices. Because what's the difference between choices and abilities?
Abilities you have, and the choices you decide how to use what you have.
You might choose not to use your abilities. Okay? Abilities is that raw talent kind of thing. Okay? What did we hear McGonagall say about Dumbledore in the first book when they're standing there outside number 4 Privet Drive? She says, you have powers, okay, that you are too noble to use. In other words, he exercises a choice of the will not to do certain kinds of magic that he easily could do. Okay? If you want proof, Harry, that you belong in Gryffindor, I suggest you look more closely at this. And he takes the blood-stained sword off McGonagall's desk and hands it to Harry. And Harry reads, engraved just below the hilt, Godric Gryffindor. Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that out of the hat, Harry. What does he mean, only a true Gryffindor? Only somebody who really belongs in that house. Only somebody that the Sorting Hat new belong in that house. Is that what he means? Only somebody who is truly daring, truly has nerve, truly courageous, truly brave, truly chivalrous. Yes, means all that. What else does it mean? We've been talking about ancestors and descendants. Only a true Gryffindor, only somebody descended from Godric Gryffindor, could have pulled that sword out of the hat. That's what Dumbledore ultimately means. Okay? That is the reason why later, Book 7, Dumbledore leaves the sword to Harry. And the Minister of Magic's like, well, it's not his to give to Harry. Well, he's a true descendant. Yeah, kind of it is. It's like a family heirloom. All right? So, Lucius Malfoy comes in. He's all bent out of shape because Dumbledore's back. He's not supposed to be there. And Dumbledore says, you know, kind of odd, Lucius, because I got a notice, and all the governors, what? They kind of seem to think I was the best man for the job after all. Very strange tales, they told me. Several of them seemed to think you had threatened to curse their families if they didn't agree to suspend me. So have you stopped the attacks yet? Have you caught the culprit? Dumbledore says we have. Who was it? Same person as last time. Lord Voldemort acting through somebody else by means of this diary, and he shows it to him. And Dobby's sitting back there going, you know, pointing. Malfoy pretends to be dumb. Okay. And Harry says, page 336, don't you want to know how Jenny got hold of that diary? How should I know how the stupid little girl got hold of it? Harry, because you gave it to her. In Flourish and Blotch, you picked up her old Transfiguration book and slipped the diary inside it, didn't you? Anytime somebody says, prove it mean, guilty.
Yeah.
But you can't prove it. Okay? Dumbledore, no, won't be able to. But, he says, you know, don't go out giving more of Voldemort's stuff. What does Dumbledore really mean? I'm watching you, buddy. Okay? We're going, Dobby. Gets open the door, kicks Dobby through it. Harry, can I get that? Can I have the diary back? And Dumbledore, sure, yeah, it's all yours. What does Harry do? Dashes out of the office, pulls off one of his shoes, pulls off the slimy, filthy sock, stuffs the diary into the sock. How's that different from the film?
He puts the sock inside.
In the film, he puts the sock inside. Okay, the book. So what does that mean? When he hands the sock that is now inside the book to Malfoy, what could Malfoy do?
Unknowingly give it to.
Just let it drop. With the book stuffed inside the sock, what does Malfoy have to do? Okay, two things. One of them, Harry's just being mean. What you gotta like about him in this instance. He's making Malfoy handle his dirty, grimy sock. Okay? So he has to hold the sock, pull the book out. Well, he's got what he wants. Throws that away. Like a bridesmaid at a wedding. Because she wants to get married next. Dobby's there. What does Dobby do? Dobby's sock. Master give Dobby clothing. Dobby's free. What does Malfoy do? And I like what they do in the film here. He starts to pull out his walking stick and starts to go, Ava. He's going to kill him right there, right outside Dumbledore's office. Not a smart move, you know. And what does Dobby do? Blasts him down the stairs. Harry Potter, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, we end with end of the year feast, and we pick up with this one, which is so bad. Not the book. I mean, my book is just falling apart. Okay, and we're supposed to finish this today, so we're gonna skip a lot. I got to get us almost 20 minutes we have. Get us good distance in. What's the initial complication at the beginning of the novel? What sets up Harry leaving? Who's visiting? Describe Aunt Marge. Female version of Uncle Vernon. Okay? Some readers have taken Aunt Marge to be J.K. Rowling's knock at Margaret Thatcher. Former Prime Minister, long-serving Prime Minister. Why? Because she has what kind of animals? What kind of dogs? Bulldogs. Okay? Bulldogs in British media and such are sometimes used as representative of the conservative cause or conservatives because one very conservative prime minister, Winston Churchill, had a bulldog. And so you would sometimes see an image during the Second World War of a bulldog with its massive chest, little short legs, in Churchill's face. This sucker is going to rout the Germans, kind of a thing. Okay, so she raises bulldogs. Describe Aunt Marge's interactions with Harry. What kind of person is she? Not very pleasant. You're so charitable. Okay, so she treats Harry like dirt, and what has Harry been told he will receive if he gets along well with Aunt Marge for the entire week she's there? Vernon will sign his Hogsmeade permission slip. Okay? Why doesn't Harry get him to sign it before?
Because it's an exchange. Like, I'll do this for you if you do this for me.
Okay? But in every exchange, in that kind of exchange, there's always a position of power. In every negotiation, there's a position of power. Now, the position of power might not be apparent at the beginning, but there's always one there. Who is really in the position of power? Is it Vernon? But Harry thinks it is, right? Why? Because Vernon has what Harry wants. See, Harry's not a good negotiator. Harry would never do well at buying a car. Because he'd go in, and the sales guy would say, oh, gee, I don't know. Let you talk to my sales manager. And he gets taken off into the other room. And the sales manager says, this is really about the best I can do. It takes, $100 off the MSRP. And then what would Harry think? Harry think, well, shoot, I really want this car. Rather than, you're screwed. I'm not going to pay that. And he writes a different number down. Okay? So this is the negotiation going on. How does Harry have more power than Vernon? Okay. Basic. Real basic.
Magic.
Wizard. So extrapolate from that.
Well, he can embarrass Vernon and Petunia because they're terrified of not being normal.
Who could he embarrass them in front of? Marge. Neighbors. Right? What could Harry do? Well, what does he do? Does he blow her up intentionally? No. That's, letting the steam off. That's the corpse, Okay? What causes that? What causes that outburst on Harry's part? Okay? He's made it all week. Last night there. Okay? Harry's thinking, I think I'd like to eat upstairs in my room tonight. And Vernon's like, nope. You got to sit through the whole meal. 3-course meal. Okay? And what does Vernon do? What does he bring out for dinner? We're told they go through several bottles of wine. Third book. Harry is 13. How old's Dudley? A year older. Neither of them are of drinking age, not even any. It's 18. But if they're like most families, maybe Vernon and Petunia let Dudley have a glass of wine. Hell will freeze over before they're going to give Harry a glass of wine. Okay? So, several bottles of wine. That's Petunia, Vernon, and Marge. How many is several? One is one, two is a couple, at least three. 3 bottles of wine for 3 adults. That means by the time they finish those 3 bottles of wine, if it's only 3, they are what? Pretty close to 3 sheets to the wind. Okay? Then they bring out dessert. And what does Vernon open up? A bottle of brandy. Okay? Brandy is essentially distilled wine. That is, it's wine on steroids. It's higher proof. And how much of that do they polish? Most of the bottle. Because Vernon pours her glass, and we're told she drinks the glass. 1 gulp. It's a big gulp. Okay? You wouldn't drink this much brandy. When he pours it, it's probably a finger or 2 fingers, and she just, like a shot. Okay? You don't drink brandy like a shot, like vodka. Totally classless, okay? So, she says, a little more now, Vernon. And Vernon starts to pour, and he starts to take the bottle away, and she goes, a little more. Then she does this, okay? So that it fills the cup. Then she gets more, and we're told she's pouring not in the cup. Why? Because there's 2 cups there, according to her eyes. She is drunk. And what does she start railing about? Drunks. Suppose he was drunk, got himself in a car wreck. Harry, he did not. He wasn't a drunk. He wasn't worthless. He pushes away. She starts to expand. Harry goes up, gets his stuff. He comes down. Vernon yells at him, and what does he do? First time ever. Points his wand at him. Back off. And he leaves. He leaves. He goes off. Heart is pounding. He hears his blood pressure in his ears. Heart is pounding. He goes off to, Magnolia Crescent, next street over, sees what he thinks is a large dog, and he trips and throws his hand out into the street. And wham! Night bus is there. When I take when I do my Harry Potter course in London, I'm doing it this summer in case you're interested. When I do my Harry Potter course in London, it's one of the things students, it just blows their minds. To hail a bus that may not be stopping necessarily at the stop you're at, you put out your arm. You put out, kind of like hailing a taxi. And they're like, that's so totally cool. She brings in this, Why? Because many or most of them are from relatively small American towns where they've, never hailed a taxi or never been in a large city with a bus system, a metro transit system where you do that kind of thing. Because London's not the only place. Okay? So he gets on the night bus. And the night bus takes him to Diagon Alley. Or Leaky Cauldron, let me say. Who does he meet when he gets off the bus? Well, there's Cornelius Fudge. And what is Cornelius Fudge offering to do for him? Let me back up. What's Harry think is going to happen? He's had a little journey on the night bus. He's been reading in the paper, about Sirius Black. He heard about Sirius Black on the television. He doesn't know anything else other than what he's read and a little bit he saw on the television. But what's he thinking is going to happen with the Ministry of Magic? Possibly. What else? What would be less severe than that? Yeah, he'll be expelled. He'll have to give up his wand. In other words, he won't be able to do magic, and he won't be able to go back to Hogwarts. But he starts thinking, maybe I can live with Hagrid. Maybe Hagrid will let me live with him and be, assistant gamekeeper and keeper of the keys. Why? Because last time, for magic he didn't do, he got a letter saying, you're in trouble. Now he's thinking, I did do this. I'm really in trouble. But Fudge tells him what? Don't worry about it, Harry. Yeah, we're glad you're safe. And what about the law, Harry asks. Harry, he says, let me back up. I broke the law. Decree for the restriction of underage wizardry, page 45. Oh, my dear boy, we're not going to punish you for a little thing like that. We don't send the people to Azkaban just for blowing up their aunts. Harry, last year I got an official warning. Ministry said I'd be expelled. Circumstances change, Harry. We have to take into account in the present climate. We don't want to, no. Well, then that's that. In other words, laws can be modified depending on what I want. Why? He's the enforcer of the laws. He's the executive. Okay? So, Harry essentially, for the rest of the summer, gets to live in the leaky cauldron and go every day and do what? Have fun in Diagon Alley. Go and, lust over the latest broom, and Florian Fortescue gives him free ice cream. Why? Well, it's good for business to have Harry Potter sitting there in your ice cream parlor every day. Helps bring in customers and such. Meets up with the Weasleys. Okay? And what does Mr. Weasley tell them about? The night before they get ready to go off to King's Cross. He overhears Mr. and Mrs. Weasley talking about Sirius Black. Okay? That somehow Sirius Black is after Harry. They go off to King's Cross. Mr. Weasley takes Harry aside, and Harry says, I know, don't worry about it. I accidentally overheard, okay? And Mr. Weasley just says, don't do anything stupid. Okay? He tells Ron and Hermione what the Weasleys were talking about. And Hermione says, page 75, oh, Harry, you'll have to be really, really careful. Don't go looking for trouble, Harry. And he's like, I don't go looking for trouble. Trouble finds me. Did he? I know the answer literally is yes, but did he go looking for the Chamber of Secrets? Did he go looking for the basilisk? No, he just hears it, and then he starts following it. Okay? Did he start year one wanting to solve the riddle of what was stolen from Vault, whatever it, Green? No. Okay? Ron, how thick would Harry have to be to go looking for a nutter who wants to kill him? Well, who's the grand nutter who wants to kill him? I mean, that would be Voldemort, right? Okay. So they get in the train. They're riding on along. They're in the compartment with this ragged-looking gentleman with the R. Lupin on his bag. He's got torn robes. Okay. And Malfoy and et al. Come in. And they leave after they realize there's a teacher in there. Neville comes in. And then everything goes dark. And Harry, for lack of a better word, freaks out and passes out. Pages 82 and following. But he sees the thing in the doorway. And we're told, standing in the doorway, page 83, illuminated by the shivering flames in Lupin's hand, was a cloaked figure that towered to the ceiling. Its face was completely hidden beneath its hood. Harry's eyes darted downward, and what he saw made his stomach contract. There was a hand protruding. This is kind of like the Ghost of Christmas Future from Dickens's Christmas Carol. Very, very similar description. So, Lupin gets rid of it. We're not told how, we're just told he does. And then what does he do to all the students? He gives them chocolate. Why? Why chocolate?
Those good endorphins. Yeah, happy
Those endorphins, man, those happy chemicals just start coursing through the body. Is that because they know about the power of endorphins? Nope. But J.K. Rowling did. And she's going to describe Dementors in here. She's going to have Lupin describe Dementors. Okay? Y'all know what a mentor is. Okay? Mentor, mens, and then you got the T kind of thrown in, and the or. This means mind, or thought, if you want. Okay? The or is an ending on words that indicates agent of. It's male. It's a male ending, indicates agent of. That's why, literally speaking, you can't have a woman actor. The or indicates maleness. That's why the ESS or RESS or sometimes TRIX indicates a feminine actors. There's nothing about sexism involved. It's just different endings to indicate, who's doing the speaking, etc. So you have a mentor. What's a mentor? How many of you have a mentor? Every one of you do. It's called your advisor. Okay? What does the advisor do?
Advice.
They mentor you. They mind you. They advise you. For what purpose?
To help you succeed.
To help you succeed, to help you achieve your goal. Okay? That's what a mentor does. A mentor builds up the mind, so to speak. Guides, directs, etc. So, a dementor does just the opposite. Doesn't guide, but leads astray. Doesn't build up the mind, but destroys the mind. The dementors in here are physical representations, she has said, of depression. Because what does depression do? Real bad depression, clinical, psychological depression, takes away your mind. It rots your mind. It destroys your mind. To the extent, if it's extreme, where you do what? You blow out your mind. Because your mind can't accept the reality of your situation anymore. Dementors are that. What does Lupin say they do? They suck all joy and happiness out of you. Well, what is that a description of? That is depression, if you've ever had it. Okay? So, chocolate, we know, raises endorphin levels. It's a feel-good, non-drug food. Okay? So, Harry goes on. They get to school. I know we've only got a couple minutes left. Talons and Tea Leaves chapter. What does he learn in divination? He's going to die. Yeah, but what has Trelawney been saying every year since she's been hired? Somebody's going to die. And how many have actually died? Big fat goose egg. Okay? And yet it's a prediction with her. What is Rowling telling us about Sybil Trelawney? Notice her first name, by the way. Sybil means prophetess. Okay? Trelawney. What's she telling us? Starts with F, has raw in the middle, and D at the end. Fraud. Okay? And yet, she's the only person within the novels who practices a quote-unquote branch of magic that has a real-world corollary. Right? Can you go anywhere in Nashville and find a magic store that does transfiguration? No, you can't. Can you go find an arithmancy person? Not really. What can you find, though? Open any newspaper, and what do you have? Horoscope. You can go get your palm read. You can go get tea leaves read. You can get your fortune told. Those all fall within divination. The one branch that has a real-world corollary, what does Rowling do with it? She holds it up for ridicule. Even Dumbledore says it's the least precise, and really, if he had his way, he wouldn't be teaching it, have it being taught at all. But he is having it taught. Why? One, because she's pretty harmless, and most of the students see through it. Two, as you already said, she's there under his protection. Okay? We'll stop there. We're going to pick up with Boggart in the Wardrobe. Definitely will finish Prisoner of Azkaban. If you haven't started Goblet of Fire, start.